Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at our snowstorm that is about to impact us starting tomorrow afternoon here in the Denver area and will last through most of tomorrow night and your Thursday morning. I do think we're going to be in store here for probably a good 4 to 8 inches worth of snowfall here in the Denver area. Could have a little ice on the front end of this, and then by Thursday morning, I'm going to go out and say that I think we're going to have quite a few school delays on your Thursday morning, just because we're going to get a pretty good amount of snowfall. Most of us will probably end up closer to 8 inches worth of snow from this event. And as a result of that much snow, there are now winter storm watches that are in place throughout most of the Denver area. In fact, I would say just about all of it. You go up into southern Weld County, that would be the snow hole right now in terms of the one area that that is not included within that winter storm watch. You get a little of that downsloping off of the Cheyenne Ridge there in Greeley on south into Keensburg. That's why you tend to get a little less from this particular snow event. Long story short, Denver area, 4 to 8 inches worth of snowfall. Most of that comes between 5 and 9 tomorrow night. And it's going to be a pretty nasty commute tomorrow night, especially the back end of that. So with that in mind, here's a look at those details. So today, one more warm day. Cold front arrives late tonight, probably around midnight or so. So you'll wake up to probably mostly cloudy skies tomorrow morning. And then there's ice, a little bit of freezing drizzle during the day tomorrow before that flips over to all snow tomorrow night. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and show you kind of how this works on out for you. So as I mentioned, let's again time this out. Tomorrow morning, you may even see some peaks of sunshine, especially south of I-70, Palmer Divide on south. In the mountains, I-70 on north, you'll wake up to some snow, Steamboat Springs, Winter Park. If you are lucky enough to be off tomorrow and you like to ski or snowboard, tomorrow looks like a pretty good powder day for most of the mountains. Again, mainly from I-70 on north, but everybody should get a little bit of snow from this one. All right, moving our way later on into the day, we'll see that snow move its way on in from north to south. So Fort Collins, your snow probably arrives more in the morning. Denver, I-76 on south, I think we're going to be more around midday, if not a little later than that with our snow. And I'll have a closer look in here at the Denver area in just a second. Everybody in the mountains gets in on some of the snowfall. Folks, this is amazing news. We really, 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 really need the snow into the mountains. It's been, aside from those 3 weeks between the second to last week of December, I should say, the kind of final 2 weeks of 2021 into the first week of January, we had about 3 weeks where it just didn't stop snowing in the mountains. We've had basically no snow this season outside of that, so the mountains due for a good snowstorm. This will be a middling one for the mountains, but we'll get a pretty meaningful amount of snow up that way. Meantime, for us here into Denver along I-25, that snow arrives in earnest by about mid-afternoon tomorrow, and then by the evening commute tomorrow night, looking pretty nasty around Denver and Colorado Springs, and even down into Pueblo. By late tomorrow night, early Thursday morning, that snow winds on down from north to south. I think Denver, the snow will be done by the time you wake up on your Thursday morning, long done by the time you wake up on Thursday morning. Colorado Springs, Pueblo, the San Luis Valley, you hold on to the snow the longest, but by sunup on Thursday, well, here's what roughly it looks like. In fact, let's go back a little bit here. Again, most of the state done with the snow by sunup on Thursday. And then we'll be just left behind with several inches of snow and some pretty chilly temperatures coming up for your Thursday. All right, with that in mind, let's kind of focus in here on the Denver area and what we can expect hour by hour here into the metro area. And as I mentioned, by tomorrow morning, our model here is not doing a great job of showing it, but we do wake up to, again, probably mostly cloudy skies. We'll have some fog right at the surface, and I do think we'll see a little bit of freezing drizzle that does develop through the kind of early to mid-morning hours. Again, a couple things to keep in mind, and now that we've got a bit of a longer format, we can get a little nerdy on this. I promise I'll make this interesting, but two things are in play. One, today it was 57, right? Yesterday it was 61, so it's been really warm the last 2 days. Plus, you might notice that the sunrises are getting earlier, the sunsets are getting later. Our sun angle is a bit high right now. So those two things are going to combine to keep roads mostly wet through the day tomorrow. Again, warm temperatures today and yesterday, and also those that higher sun angle. Those two things are going to combine to make it a bit warmer on the ground for your day tomorrow. And as a result of that, I do think it's going to take a little bit of time for that snow, for that ice and that snow to really accumulate. So I think the front end of our morning commute, or I should say, the front end of our evening commute tomorrow looks mostly okay. But that snow does start to develop around early to mid-afternoon here into the Denver area, depending on exactly where you are. And by about 2, 3 o'clock, most of us looking at some of that snow. Again, I do think it's going to take a little time for it to accumulate, so you may not see a ton. If you remember last Friday, around kind of 2, 3 o'clock, those roads were mostly just wet, and it wasn't until about 4 or 5 o'clock that snow started to stick. I think we're looking at a similar scenario with this snow event. So again, it may take a little bit of time for that snow to stick. I might get some nasty email or 20 saying, where's the snow? That's okay. It's part of the job. We sign up for it. But then by about 5, 6, 7 o'clock, that snow really coming down in earnest, the foothills in particular getting pounded. And I think the worst of the snow, the majority of the accumulation falls between about 5 and 10 tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. So again, if you can avoid the roadways between 5 and 10 tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night, you might think it'll be later, maybe not, but it doesn't matter. The snow does end by about midnight, early in the Thursday morning window, time window, and then by sunup, as I mentioned, maybe a few clouds around, but for the most part, we're long done with the snow by the time you wake up here on your Thursday morning. So how much snow? That is always the question we get, right? You always want to know, how much snow are we going to be talking about from this snow event? So here's one snowfall forecast. I think Denver ends up with a bit more than that. I'll show you in more detail Denver area in just a second. I want to kind of mostly focus on the state as a whole. And it does look like the mountains should end up with a good 4 to 8 inches worth of snowfall, or most of them. So the I-70 mountains, the Mosquitoes, the Gores, Rocky Mountain National Park, the Front Range, the Elkheads, again, even the San Juans, where everybody gets in on this snow. The Wets get on some of the snow as well, the San Cristos. We're looking at a good, again, 4 to 8 inches of snow for most of the mountains. Great news. It's not a huge storm, but enough to start making a bit of a difference. We again, are needing the snow in the mountains, and this will add to that. Now, close look in here at the metro area, and here's one computer forecast model showing what maybe Golden's a little bit high there. I think 10 inches is a bit much for Golden, but I wouldn't be stunned if Golden does end up with that much. We're looking at a pretty good, I think, 4 to 8 inches for us here across the metro area. Now, there's going to be a sharp gradient, so big difference between what you see and say I-225 and I-70 out by Tower Road, that area, Aurora, DIA, Green Valley Ranch. Big difference between what you see out there, which is probably about 3, 4 inches, compared to what you see, say, downtown. Downtown, probably about 5, 6, 7 inches for us here along the I-25 corridor, the immediate I-25 corridor. And then you get west of 25, and that's when you're starting to talk about some 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10-inch snowfall totals as you get on up into the foothills. The further west you go, the more the snow you'll be talking about. By the way, Boulder showing 6.5 inches here. I wouldn't be surprised if you end up with a bit more in Boulder. Golden, 10 inches seems a bit high to me, but about 7, 8 inches seems about right for the Golden area. So it's a pretty healthy storm. There's no doubt about that one here, folks. So we'll be done with this again by about early morning here on your Thursday before dawn, but we'll end up with a good several inches worth of snowfall from this event. Now, with that in mind, I also want to show you this, how much snow we've seen so far this season. We've seen basically all of this since New Year's Eve. 24.7 inches officially out at DIA. By the way, the Central Park Station, a bit more representative of what we've seen in Denver, is about 30 inches so far this season. So we've seen about 2 feet worth of snowfall. We're going to be putting a dent into this, but because our official observations, and by the way, we at 9 News have absolutely, and I repeat, absolutely nothing to do with that. Those official observations at DIA will be notably less than what we see in the city proper. Well, point being, DIA probably looking at about 3, 4 inches, as I mentioned, from the storm, so may end up with, say, 27, 28 inches season to date snowfall after the snow event. But that'll be notably less than what I think downtown picks on up. And hey, you know what? At least I'll still put a dent in that season-to-date average deficit for us here into the Denver area. And let's take a quick look here at that 7-day forecast before we wrap things on up. Once we get past this first snowstorm, we'll be looking at a very nice weekend ahead. So we're going to be we're stuck in this pattern of, and it's a nice pattern in my opinion, where we're talking about snow, then 50 degrees, sometimes 60 degrees, then back to snow, then 60 degrees, then snow. It's that kind of pattern here in the middle of winter, so not bad at all. But again, we'll be looking at mostly sunny conditions by the weekend and a slight chance for some snow at the early part of next week. So hopefully gives you a little bit of an overview about what to expect as we head over the next few days. I think the highest impacts for us here in the Denver area will be after dark tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. So you have the weatherman's permission, you have my permission, that if you need to get out of work a little bit early or bump up that doctor's appointment because of the snow, trust me, you'll thank me that if you get out of work around 3:30 as opposed to 5:30, the roads will be very different from, again, that 3:30 time window as opposed to 5:30 when that snow really does start to stick on the roads. And then also tomorrow night is when the majority of the snow falls. I think the majority of the accumulation is done by midnight tomorrow night, but the main time window for accumulating snow in Denver will be between 5 and 10 p.m. And then by the time you wake up on Thursday morning, most of us looking at about 4 to 8 inches worth of snowfall, winter storm watch in place for that. And we could also be looking at some pretty chilly temperatures on Thursday morning and probably looking at some school delays as a result of this. Hopefully, again, that's giving you a pretty good overview about what to expect as we head over the next 24 to 36 hours. Hey, we'll have continued updates right here on 9 News Watch. Also, Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin will have updates on 9 News at 9 and 10 p.m. tonight with our latest forecast totals and what to expect. Meantime, have a great rest of your night. Stay safe tomorrow, and we'll see you right back here on 9 News Watch.